Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host, as always. We made it. Football season is officially here. Obviously, college football was here last week, but the NFL season is here. We are about 25 hours out from the Chargers kicking off against the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't wait, man. This is like Christmas for us football nerds. This is true sicko mode at this point if you're a football fan. It just felt like the longest offseason ever, and I'm sure at some point this is going to turn into nerves, but right now I just can't wait to see what this Chargers team looks like on prime time on a Friday night in Brazil against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is super exciting, probably the most excited I've been for a season opener in quite a while, and today we're here to preview all of it, all of the storylines, all of the statistics, all of the data, everything that you could possibly imagine. And joining me to do that, of course, is my good friend Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How are you doing? How are you feeling? Tell the good people what's up.
Hey, everyone. Excited to finally be here. As much as I loved watching 4 preseason games, I could do without a 5th one, so I'm glad this one actually counts and means something on the schedule. 230-something days ago, I was in Houston, and I watched a pretty rough loss. It went from a mostly competitive game to just a flat-out kind of embarrassment. And, you know, every offseason we hear this as Chargers fans. It's nothing new, but it's Justin Herbert can't get it done. Apparently, Justin Herbert sucks when it matters, apparently, according to Ryan Clark.
Just is terrible in every instance. Every big game he's ever played in his career. Awful.
Yes. Less said about him, I guess, the better. But I'm excited to see how the Chargers respond. You know, last year when they lost to the Buccaneers, we're like, hey, Jim Harbaugh, how are you responding now when your back's against the wall? And they went and they beat the Broncos in that great primetime game. This is an even bigger picture now. You lost. The last time we saw you is an embarrassing loss. How are you responding? And your first attempt at doing that is against the kings of the AFC West, the ones that have been the kings of the AFC West, if not the AFC, for over a decade. Now, again, despite what Dan Orlovsky says that the Eagles are the new dynasty, or the current modern versions of Belichick and Brady, I contend it has been the Chiefs for several reasons, and the Chargers get a chance to show that this is a turning point for them. Last year, you know, it's about finding your way, getting things, you know, settled in year one. Harbaugh learns, you know, which key goes to which door, all that sort of stuff. Year 2 now, like, are you going to do it this year? Are you going to take that crown? Or are you maybe be the same team as you've been the last couple of years?
Yeah, rough day for ESPN today. I don't know what got into them in the water today, but man, some brutal takes this morning from Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky in one day. Just amazing. Yeah, like genuinely, I think in terms of season openers, this is the most interesting team because last year, like we were just not like super optimistic that the roster was going to be enough for like the return of Jim Harbaugh to matter all that much. You know, that obviously like the opening game of the Brandon Staley era was interesting and exciting. It was young, it was new, it was analytics, but it was against the Commanders, like in Washington, you know, just, you know, with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heineke, you know, so it's been a while since we've truly had an opening game like this. And you know, the Chiefs, the 2 games against the Chiefs are the 2 most important games on every single season. And so to open it this way, I think just adds so much, you know, extra, you know, juice to the matchup. It's a primetime game. I'm sure a lot of people would love for this to be happening at Arrowhead or in SoFi. It's whatever. It's an international game in Brazil. I think that adds something extra to it as well. But yeah, man, I think there are so many interesting things that can happen tomorrow. And it's been a lot of buildup, like Derwin James was talking about it. He's like, this is the longest training camp he's experienced because they started 2 weeks earlier and then they canceled the joint practice against the Rams. Like they played, like, you know, he didn't play
right
in the one drive against the Rams, but he's like, I'm so ready to hit somebody else besides my teammates. So I just think there's going to be a lot of juice in this one, and we'll dive into all the storylines. But man, what a way to kick off the season!
I really just feel that there's this built up emotion and aggression and passion, just all this stuff about with the Chargers this year. Not that the Chiefs won't, but I just have this weird feeling the Chargers just want to say something and make a statement. And the Chiefs feel like are kind of that team that's unsure of what they're going to be. Like the core is obviously there.
Yeah.
But where are they pivoting this year? Like they can be very good. I will pick them to win the AFC West, but in one game, what are the Chargers going to do? I don't know. We won't give our picks yet, but we will get there.
Yeah. I think this coaching staff, obviously much more, I would trust them much more to respond to a game like the playoff game than the previous regime where, it was not great after the Jacksonville performance. The vibes were not good in training camp that year. The vibes have been pretty good in training camp this year. Like it's been a lot of positive, there's been, players who have developed and seemingly taking steps forward. They had the Hall of Fame game, which was cool. So I'm interested to see how Jim Harbaugh and this coaching staff can get this team to respond after the Houston game, which we don't need to revisit everything, but it was not fun.
Not great.
All right. Before we get started with our preview, of course, I have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. This episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast and every episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast is presented by Prize Picks. Preseason football is officially over. College football is officially here. NFL season is less than an hour away from kicking off. So don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. Obviously, you guys have heard us talk about Prize Picks for the last couple of years. We've had a ton of fun doing individual segments for Prize Picks. Obviously, Tyler's mom has had a ton of success. I think more success than anybody on Prize Picks. Paid for their tickets to said playoff game in Houston. So it's a great time. Hopefully, you guys can join in on the action. It's very simple. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, depending on what kind of floats your boat. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your cash money. Prize Picks is available in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. So make sure and download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code GUILTY to get $50 in your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code GUILTY to get $50 in your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, we're going to get started here with our preview. Big shout out to Tyler for absolutely crushing the aesthetics of the slideshow this week. It looks fantastic. We're, as we've said before, Tyler and I are both visual learners. We'll do our best for our audio audience, but there's a nice black and red, graphic here on the screen that it looks really, really clean for week one.
Thank you. Easier for me to throw these things together, especially when the templates are generally preset. But we'll try to make these themed every week. Couldn't find an interesting one for the Chiefs. I always find something fun for the Raiders, so hang in there for that.
Yeah, definitely hang in for that. All right, so opponent preview. Obviously, we know about Andy Reid at this point in time. Let's take a quick look back to 2024, which we'll do every single week at least for the first few weeks for these teams. Obviously, the Chiefs went 15-2, won the AFC West, lost in the Super Bowl, absolutely got destroyed by the team playing tonight, the Philadelphia Eagles. Despite the quote-unquote down year and all of the talk about Patrick Mahomes being a product of the system and everything that these media analysts apparently want to give the Chiefs a lot of bulletin board material this year. I don't know what's going on there, but 9th overall in offensive EPA per play, 8th in rushing success rate. They had 3 all-pro interior offensive line selections. Obviously, Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith are back. Joe Tooney, who we'll get to in a second, is gone. They definitely excelled at the Black Voodoo Magic power, where several of their wins came down to very weird, last-minute wins. But that's just kind of the case every year, I feel like, for them. And then they did have the 5th defensive pressure rate overall last season.
It is crazy to look at. I mean, every year. And last year was really the first year I think I just gave up trying to pick the Chargers to win, because it's like, well, the Chiefs and this and the downfall, this and that and whatever, here it comes. And you look at you just look back and they went 15-2 again. What are they usually? 3-loss team, 4-loss team. Even a bad year. It's ridiculous. Like, yes, they did get killed in the Super Bowl, and I think that's driving some narratives about them. They still got there. I hate them. It's every year. And it's impressive that they were able to be as good as they were, despite the offense really being in flux. I mean, I think Rashee Rice could have had a heck of a Pro Bowl season if not for his knee getting buckled in by his own teammate and Patrick Mahomes on that interception. Just unfortunate there. And then his own situation now, obviously, it's a whole different thing. You know, they didn't quite have a run game. Their tackle situation was an absolute disaster last year. And all of that, and they're still ninth in offensive EPA and whatever the success rate overall was. Still a good offense. We'll see how they are this year. In this particular game, they're also going to be missing Rice again.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious, and we'll talk about the additions that they've made, what this offense looks like heading into 2025.
Yeah, 100%. The one-score games was crazy. They played 17 of their 21 games last season were one-score games, and they won. They won 11 of those games, which is crazy. That's not super repeatable. We'll see, but history and data would suggest that does come down to earth a little bit. Where the Chiefs struggled, obviously offensive tackle was a big issue, and they went out and addressed it in a major way, which we'll get to here in a second. Mahomes probably had his most pedestrian season in terms of the statistics and EPA per play, composite completion percentage over expectation. But again, obviously still he was able to get there when it mattered most. The weapons declined, were lackluster, got hurt, or never really panned out. You mentioned Rashee Rice. Hollywood Brown obviously was a big part of their plans. He also got injured very early, barely played. There's some other players who didn't necessarily pan out. It took them a while to figure out Xavier Worthy, who is definitely going to be featured here tonight. And so just it's kind of been the story of their last two seasons where they just haven't really been able to figure out receiving options outside of Travis Kelce. And then while they were the fifth best defensive pressure rate overall, when you isolate pure four-man defensive rushes, just no blitzing, no simulated pressures, just like our two defensive tackles, two defensive ends, the four of us are rushing the passer. They were actually the worst team in the league in pressure rate in those situations. So we're going to talk about Steve Spagnuolo quite a bit today. That his specialty is obviously the blitz packages, the simulated pressures. But last season, when it was just our four guys against your five, the Chiefs were one of the worst teams in the league at creating pressure.
Yeah, it's definitely a surprise given the names on the defensive line. Not that they're like the Eagles' defensive front where there's 5-6 names across the board, but they at least have Jones and Karlaftis and these guys. As far as the offense goes, yeah, they're sort of, we'll see how this most recent draft class goes, but they're sort of in that 19-ish era where they had Mahomes, but they weren't drafting very well. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, like Breeland Speaks, Derek Nottie. Not these aren't bad players, but they're not exactly what they wanted. So
compared to the last few years,
yeah, McCole Hardman, Juan Thornhill, Kalen Saunders, this just wasn't it. And then boom, they hit with Bolton and Humphrey and on McDuffie and Karlaftis, and that's been carrying them. But now we're seeing as guys have left or as guys have aged, missing on Sky Moore now. We'll talk about not missing on Rashee Rice, but Rashee Rice not being present. They're trying to make it work with Juju Smith-Schuster, trying to make it work last year with DeAndre Hopkins and these guys. Just has not quite panned out for them, but
it's mattered.
No, and that's the crazy thing is, people who said it here. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, not this one. Sorry. LDE Bruin says, they were 32nd in explosive play rate. They just dinked and dunked their way to victory down the field. And yet, they did. We can talk about the decline in weapons and the issues at tackle, Mahomes having a pedestrian year, and Kelce not being himself, and then guys not developing. And they just okay, well, that's just who we are, and here's how we're going to still win 15 games. Unreal.
Yeah, they morphed into the late era Drew Brees Saints, where they just that obviously for very different reasons, where Brees cannot throw the football down the field, and this team didn't have reliable wide receivers. So just very interesting. Obviously, we'll talk about some of how this is going to change, but that was looking back to 2024. Okay, Chiefs 2025 offseason. Again, we'll do some of these throughout the first couple months of the season just to kind of refresh. Outgoing free agents, DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Humphrey, Tershawn Wharton, who I think is a sneaky underrated loss for them. Joshua Uche, Justin Reed, who is a big loss for them. Justin Watson, Joe Thuney, another big loss for them. And then Sky Moore, the last two they traded away. Obviously, Sky Moore was recently traded away. Incoming free agency additions, they retained Trey Smith. They signed Jalen Moore, who is the most expensive backup in the league now. Hollywood Brown back. Christian Fulton signed from the Chargers. Jerry Tillery, who I still can't believe is in the league. And then Elijah Mitchell was the rounding out of their free agent group. Draft picks, Josh Simmons, who apparently looks amazing and will start at left tackle for them tomorrow night. Omar Norman Lott, who is officially questionable, I believe. Ashton Gelati, Noel Williams. I should say that some of these players, Josh Simmons from Ohio State, Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee, Ashton Gelati from Louisville, cornerback Noel Williams from Cal, wide receiver Jalen Royals from Utah State, who is not going to play tomorrow. Linebacker Jeffrey Bossa, and then running back Brashard Smith rounds out their offseason additions.
Yeah, the outgoing free agents seems pretty rough. I mean, they inevitably had to lose some players. For them, like, thank goodness for them, they didn't lose Trey Smith because they got rid of Joe Thuney, and they lose like Wharton. I'm glad you brought him up because it was a very underrated player. I think lost. The contract was surprising. I think it was the Panthers he ended up going to.
Yes,
I believe it was the Panthers.
It was pretty big. It was a pretty big.
It was a big contract for sure. But in a group that's looking for some of their other players they have drafted, or even a Norman Lott,
that was bigger than I thought it was.
Like $15
million for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, they spent, and then no, totally, 100%. Go get your stuff, dude. But yeah, so those losses, Thuney in particular, just being a stabilizing presence for them, playing so much tackle for them, trying to do this and that in a pinch for them last year. I understand why you have to move on, but we'll see. To me, like, the big one we'll circle here is Josh Simmons, because they've always just been, over years now, it's a great interior trio and other guys are playing tackle. It's been the inverse of the Chargers, essentially. If they still have great play out of the two interior guys that we know are good players, if they can find a way we'll talk about their left guard in a second, but if Simmons can actually hit for them and even just be good, man, like that's a heck of a jump for them, because I mean, every year it's been like, look, the Chiefs have a good offense, they can do this and that, but Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack can get there, or Uchenna and Nwosu and these guys can get there because the edge is weak. They want to push the ball down the field, perhaps. These guys can get there. If they can negate one of those two players, like let's just say it's Khalil, I doubt it. I doubt it, but let's say they find a way to negate Khalil or Thule in an already questionable edge rusher group for them, for the Chargers, it's going to be a longer day than it has been. It's just, it feels like it could be different than it has been for the Chargers for years now.
Yeah, Robert Mace has talked about this with the Chiefs' kind of like game plan. And obviously, when Mahomes started his career, they had arguably the best right tackle in the league in Mitchell Schwartz, and then Eric Fisher, who was like a really above average left tackle, and their interior was not so good. And then the interior became amazing, and the tackles retired. And so the tackles have been bad. And the point that Robert Mace has always made is that Patrick Mahomes is, a lot of these quarterbacks prefer to have like stouter guards and the tackle pressure they can kind of work with, whereas with Mahomes he would rather have interior pressure and have firm tackles, because he likes to obviously drift and drop back further, and his angles are a little bit different. So it is going to be interesting. Obviously Josh Simmons is an athletic freak. I've said this a couple of times. I didn't like grade him, but when I did watch his teammate, whose name I'm forgetting, Donovan Jackson, there it is, I was always really impressed with Josh Simmons' tape, and I think he would have been, probably a top 10 pick if he does not get hurt last season. So the Chiefs potentially getting one of the 10 best prospects in the class at pick 31.
Yeah,
that has the chance to be some real surplus value. And unfortunately for the Chargers, like, they'd be looking at this going forward where you could potentially, obviously don't want to get too far ahead of myself with Simmons, they could potentially have the best center in the league, a top 5 right guard in the league, and maybe a top 10 left tackle in the league if he hits the way that his ceiling has the potential to be. So that's unfortunate. But again, we have no idea. Like, he's looked good in training camp coming off of the patella surgery. We have no idea what that actually is going to look like in games. Obviously a very long career ahead of him. But this has the potential to be a real boon for the Chiefs, unfortunately for the Chargers.
Yeah, real bummer there. And there's other good players on here too that could also hit. I mean, I don't know where Brashard Smith is at tomorrow, if he's going to be active, but I have a feeling he could eventually contribute. So
Yeah.
I hope it's not one of those drafts for the Chiefs.
Yeah. So Omar Norman Lott is questionable to play. We weren't like the biggest fans of his, and he's really just like a designated pass rusher. But I'm very intrigued by the role that Ashton Gelati can play. Somebody earlier in the chat asked about Mike Dana. They've had this kind of pseudo edge rusher defensive tackle that can kind of complement Chris Jones forever. And Mike Dana is like the perfect complement there, because Chris Jones will play, 15, 20 snaps on the edge each game. And so Ashton Gelati, if he hits and can be the long-term Mike Dana replacement, I think he is, after Josh Emmons, I think Gelati is probably the rookie who I would most keep an eye on in this one going forward.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. Game preview here. Again, jumping into the injury report first and foremost. This segment has been very long in the past. It's pretty quick today. Obviously, season opener. I mentioned Omar Norman Lott, who is questionable. Jalen Royals, sneaky big loss there for the Chiefs. He's kind of been their like Rashee Rice replacement with all the underneath stuff. So we'll have to keep an eye on one there. Big surprise for the Chargers for me personally is that Najee Harris has 0 designation on the injury report. He was a full participant in practice all week. Obviously, the Chargers had a walkthrough today. So not like a hugely stressful week of practice, but we're like 2 weeks away from him walking laps around the Chargers practice facility. I had no confidence that this was going to be the case. Obviously, you guys listening know that. I figured he was going to be starting the season on the NFI list, but he's active. He's ready to go. Jim Harbaugh says he looks great. And obviously, this is huge news for the Chargers. We'll see about the workload this week, but the fact that Najee Harris is out there for their first 4 games, I think is a very, very positive development.
Yeah, it's kind of miraculous at this point, because based on the way things were trending, and we don't know anything other than what the reporters are sharing with us and some videos. I mean, it was looking pretty bleak there. I'm thinking, okay, are we like mid-season return kind of deal here? Because as far as we knew as fans, he wasn't running, he wasn't doing anything in particular. The conditioning wasn't there, the lifting wasn't there. And so it's like, what do we have going on here? But then you like dug around and found some more information, and it's been they've kind of headed into that this too. He's like in shape, like he's strong and pretty much ready to rock. Now, that, of course, as everyone says, like there's game shape, and he hasn't exactly been out there with the pads. There hasn't been contact and all that, but I almost feel like there wasn't much sharing. I understand why there wouldn't be, but like there wasn't a ton of like reporting on the conditioning aspect of this, and the fact that he really is closer than we were kind of led on to believe is really, really, really impressive and a great thing. I mean, I don't know how much he's going to play, of course, but like at some point, like, okay, when do you pull the plug on him tomorrow? If he's, first carry is 10 yards, second carry is 6 yards, like, are you on a pitch count? When do you let is Hampton I'm assuming Hampton's starting. I don't know. Like, I'm just so curious what tomorrow's going to be like for Najee Harris.
Yeah, so Jim Harbaugh apparently told Rich Eisen in their production meeting that Hampton is going to be the starter and get the bulk of the carries, which makes sense. Like, he's the first-round draft pick. I think he's the better player at this point in time. But Najee as your RB2, if he's healthy, that's a much better situation than this time last year, where we had no idea what J.K. Dobbins was going to look like coming off of his injury history. Gus Edwards was barely practicing in training camp himself. And obviously Najee missed, the bulk of training camp. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. I do expect Hassan Haskins will get some carries. He'll get some pass blocking reps. He'll get some reception, targets kind of situations. But I think this is going to be Hampton's show for the first few weeks. And I think if Hampton is the player that we all think he is, then I think it's going to be his show all season long, with Najee being like a very effective running back too.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's get to the specific preview here. Every single week for this segment, for this show, I should say, we're going to have specific segments here. And the first one we're going to be talking about is the biggest coaching storyline. So each week, as we get more information on both of these teams, maybe we're talking about more like scheme-specific situations. end of game situations, player matchups, whatever. So the biggest coaching storyline for you this week, Tyler, is what?
Well, we could talk about the great interior offensive line play of 2 players and Josh Simmons and how that's going to go. I would love to know how Jesse Minter is going to make Kingsley Suamataia, their starting left guard, regret everything about his life choices. This is a player that I watched and I got the same vibe from him and how talented he was, but the lack of doing things with that talent. I got the same vibe as Alex Leatherwood when I watched him, because I'm just like, you're pretty talented and I think you could do more, but you're not. And that was the vibe I got. And it just did not work for him last season. And now they're trying him at interior offensive line. That okay, he is still naturally talented. He's got, plenty of gifts. It could work at guard. How's it been? Well, he made 1 start at left guard versus Denver in last year. His pass blocking grade was 30.8, PBE of 97.8, not bad. His 2025 preseason, at left guard, he had pass blocking grades of 28.5, 13.8, and 29.4, with a pass blocking efficiency of 94.2. Basically, he sucked in the preseason. Those numbers are like Barnhart numbers, and this is their starting left guard.
Barnhart numbers.
You're right. So basically, imagine this, guys. The Chiefs are starting Carson Barnhart at left guard tomorrow. And so how do you blitz like crazy or whatever you do to cause chaos for him? So the Chargers last year, not that it has to be purely for as a blitz, but they had 12 defensive back or linebacker blitzes last year against the Chiefs in that final game. And they got 7 pressures and a sack on those 12 blitzes. So just how do you create pressure for a guy who's still trying to learn left guard, who by all accounts and grades and numbers was awful in the preseason? Okay, so let's say left tackle is figured out for the Chiefs and their 2 guard spots or guard and center are figured out for them. How do you go after that guy? How do you make life miserable for him? Now, I didn't realize Patrick Mahomes prefers more interior pressure. Fine. Let him have it.
Yeah, I think if I'm Jesse Minter, I'm putting Tuli Tuipulotu over the left guard as much as I possibly can, putting Khalil Mack on the opposite side next to him, and I'm just running as many stunts and games as I can, doing all the simulated pressures. That is definitely the area where the Chiefs are the weakest on offense, and Jesse Minter I expect to respond in kind. And this is the Chiefs are a unique week 1 challenge. I think people are. There's this notion out there that the Chiefs are this slow starting team for whatever reason. But Andy Reid always has his teams ready to go. And going back to 2012 when he was hired, the Chiefs have the highest success rate of any franchise in the league. Obviously, that's multiple quarterbacks and things like that. But even just in the Patrick Mahomes era, they have the highest success rate by 4 percentage points of any team in the league in week 1 games. And so how Jesse Minter responds to this challenge when last year went so well for him against the Chiefs, obviously in the week 4 game, Rashee Rice goes down in the middle of the game. You can give a little slack to the Chiefs offense, but the Chiefs scored 36 total points last season against the Chargers defense, 36. And for all of us as Chargers fans, if you knew with certainty that across 2 games, you're going to give up 36 points to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, we sign up for that in a heartbeat. So how Jesse Minter responds to this challenge is another big coaching storyline. It's not the one I'm going with. Obviously, Greg Roman is on the screen for a reason. But how Jesse Minter goes about attacking that particular weakness that Tyler brought up and overall in this matchup, I think is super, super interesting as well.
Yeah, he was very coy when asked about what have you learned from last year? What are you taking into year 2? And he's like, well, obviously I won't say those things out loud. I don't want Andy Reid and I think Matt Nagy to hear these things, of course. He doesn't want to share, because I'm sure he's had this game circled. Whatever he did last year, I think last year was the first time in what feels like Chargers history. It's not, but that I've heard another offensive player praise a Chargers defensive play caller. That's the first time I can remember when Kelsey came out and said, that was something in that week 4 matchup. I don't remember the last time anyone said that about Brandon Staley. I'll tell you that. I don't remember that about Gus Bradley.
Certainly wouldn't be Travis Kelce saying that.
He said, thank you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had things to say about Brandon Staley's defense. They just weren't exactly complimentary.
Yeah.
But yes, that was the first. I mean, I'm just excited to see what Jesse Minter does. And we'll talk about some of the defensive players in a bit, but it's tough to say that he has their number, right? It's only been 2 games. The Chiefs don't exactly have a great set of weapons around them, but even what Minter had and what the Chiefs had, and the fact that they, have been in the NFL together for so long, he kind of kicked their ass.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the praise from Travis Kelce is definitely warranted. And the exact quote was that they were doing blitz calls that they had never seen before. Like they threw stuff at the Chiefs that they had not put on tape against anybody else. So Jesse Minter is going to have this group ready. We're not going to touch a ton on this today, but the cornerback battle situation in training camp has been very interesting to watch. Today, or tomorrow rather, it probably feels like more of a Dante Jackson game. Jesse Minter has referenced maybe having like a bit of a basketball team. Well, the Chiefs receivers they're all like 4-4 guys. So I think you probably want to have that speed of Dante Jackson out there, which is also something to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Okay, so pivoting to the other side of the ball, obviously Greg Roman on the screen here for a reason. This is a big opportunity for him to set the tone for the season, and in particular with the run game. Last season, on first downs, they ran the ball at a higher rate than anybody else in the league. Against the Chiefs, the Chargers had the worst offensive success rate on first downs in both of their matchups, including week 4, which was at an astonishing low 23%. It was really bad on first downs last year. And the worst possible way for you to go into the Chiefs game is getting behind the chains early and 1-yard runs, 2-yard runs, particularly in week 4 when you're not playing with your offensive tackles and Justin Herbert has a high ankle sprain. It's not a great situation to put yourself into. So how Greg Roman gets this run game going early, how does Omari Hampton and Najee Harris get going early, is paramount to the Chargers' offensive success chances this week. They cannot afford to put themselves in 3rd and long passing situations against this Chiefs defense with Steve Spagnuolo, who, again, one of the best defensive coordinators of our lifetime. You better believe he is gonna poke and prod at that left guard center duo. He is gonna poke and prod at Trey Pipkins, make you prove that those players can hold up against their designated or designer pass rush packages. How do you handle Chris Jones? Are you going to leave him one-on-one with Sam Mustipher? Like, all of this stuff is going to be what Spags is looking for. And if he finds a weakness, he is going to poke and poke and poke and poke until Justin Herbert gets sacked 6 or 7 times and you put up 13 points again. So to avoid all of that, the Chargers have to get ahead of the sticks on first downs. I would love to see Omari Hampton, be able to establish himself early, but this needs to be a situation where let's throw Tyler Conklin a screen here and there. Let's get Omari in the pass game. Let's get Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, Landon McConkey, these guys, some easy touches early, and just let the flow of the game start in a positive note. Because if you go at this Chiefs defense thinking, hey, man, we're just going to pound the rock on first down and be fine, I don't think that's going to work. I think the Chiefs are going to be prepared for that, despite starting Jerry Tillery on defense. I just think Steve Spagnuolo is going to be ready for Greg Roman's fastball, and Greg is going to have to adapt. He's going to have to make changes, and he's going to have to start early on first downs. Otherwise, this offense is not going to be set up for a positive night tomorrow night.
Is Jerry Tillery actually starting for them?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay. I've got the game plan, everybody. I figured it out. Give me a chalk and a whiteboard. Anyway, yes.
Laser pointer.
Laser pointer, exactly. I got it for you guys. Don't worry about it. Free of charge. I've done some scouting. I crunched the numbers. Anyway, yes. It definitely will not be as simple. And I'm glad you made the distinction, because everyone will be like, oh, you have Hampton, you have Harris. Run the football, get to 2nd and 5, get a 2nd and short, whatever. And yes, of course, that'd be great if they could do that. But it's not just that, because the Chiefs aren't going to go, are they going to run the football today with the 1st round pick and Najee Harris? Yes, they're going to try to do that, of course, especially as they try to figure out this offensive line. So how they stay ahead, I think is great. Whatever it takes. Let's say you become Joe Lombardi for a day, or you do what the what do you call it? The Chiefs did last year. And someone said earlier, the dink and dunk offense. Like, if that's what you got to be to stay ahead of the six, hey, fine, I'll take it. I forget what the stat was, but like if you take a sack on a drive, it plummet. Your odds of scoring a touchdown just plummet like crazy, which makes sense. So just not having to get into these, second and long situations, whatever it is, staying out of the sticks, getting better success rates on first down, second down, etc. That'd be amazing. I think Phillip Rivers against the Eagles after that game, because they're just a total back and forth. They just said Rivers just said we out no huddled the no huddlers as a joke, because Vic and all these guys were just the offense was kind of crazy that they were running, but the Chargers did something different that week to try to set a certain pace, stay ahead, that sort of thing. Not that they have to run a no huddle offense, but I'm just trying to say is find something that works, as you're trying to say. Get ahead of the sticks, stay ahead, whatever it takes. Please don't be vanilla. I know that Justin Herbert can overcome a lot of what's called for him, but I hope he gets a little bit of help too, because Greg Roman, I know, can get overwhelmed pretty significantly when the defensive play caller across from him is just pushing all the right buttons. Yes, the defensive side of the ball, those guys get paid too, but you can see plenty of times last year where it's oh, got it. And then Greg Roman just has no answer, turtle on the back kind of deal. Yeah. So hopefully in year 2, there are more answers. And I think there are. From a pass protection standpoint, do they have a whole great offensive line now? No. But in terms of weapons, they do have more answers. So as you said, throw it to Conklin, who I think should be very involved this game.
Yeah. More on that guy later. All right, let's get to what we're most excited to see. Obviously, we spent a little bit here talking about just general excitement.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, looking back at some of these Chargers and Chiefs games, it's unfortunate how many of them Justin Herbert has not had his full supporting cast of weapons. And obviously, he's not going to have Rashawn Slater in this one. But going back through some of these games, himself or Mike Williams or Austin Eckler or Keenan Allen or Gus Edwards or Ladd McConkey all missed games against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the last time the Chargers had a healthy Justin Herbert and healthy weapons around him was 2021 at Arrowhead, the game that the Chargers won. Obviously, the Mike Williams game, or I guess 2018 you could call it the Mike Williams game as well, but one of the Mike Williams games at Arrowhead. That was the last time Justin Herbert had a full complement of weapons. And the Chiefs are not going to have a couple of their guys. They're not going to have Rice. They're not going to have Jalen Royals, and that sucks for them. But for these matchups against Patrick Mahomes, for Justin Herbert to have all of his guys, at least from a throwing the ball to them perspective, I think that's really, really interesting to watch. And we're going to talk about some of them for the X Factor department here. But having, a full understanding of what Ladd McConkey is against the Chiefs was not afforded to them last year. Week 4 was, again, the Justin Herbert high ankle sprain, no offensive tackles. We didn't really know what Ladd was at that time. He didn't play in the second game. Keenan Allen is back. Quentin Johnson is back. You have the 2 rookies who we have had a lot of good moments from in the preseason. You have the 2 running backs, and we'll see how much Najee is healthy, but he's at least playing. And then you have, I think, the best tight end room that Justin Herbert has ever played with. So what does that look like against this specific Chiefs team? I think is very, very exciting, because we've never really seen him have this depth of weapons to throw to against a Spagnuolo defense. And, offensive line wise, we'll see what happens. But with this group, man, I think it just has the chance to be Herbert's best that he's thrown to in his career. And I'm really, really excited to see what that looks like in week 1 in the bright lights against Steve Spagnuolo, against Chris Jones, all those guys. It's just, I just am very anxious to see what it all looks like when it comes together.
Yeah, there are so many different options for them this year. I think there will be a lot of discussion about, this person needs to have this many targets and this person and this rookie and this running back. To me, okay, last year, hey, Stone Smart ended up being one of the heroes of the game. He had 2-3 big catches for them. I don't care who it goes to. I don't care what the answer is. I just feel like the Chargers have more answers this year, more things in front of them. You said, it's not a great tight end room, but it is the best tight end room that Justin Herbert's ever had. We'll get to Conklin. I'm very, very excited to see whatever he brings, because you hear great stuff in camp. Obviously he's been a very consistent player. Didn't really get to see much of him, so I feel like he's just a player that's just, we're all anxiously waiting to see what he can do. But yeah, I don't know who it'll be. I hope it's everyone, but whatever it ends up being, I hope they can find that answer and not have to not find that answer.
Yeah, have to not find that answer is great.
Yeah.
Okay, Tyler, what are you most excited to see tomorrow night?
Yes, I've got Derwin James, the choosy tackler, as an NFL analyst or GM, whatever it was, would say, on the screen here. And to me, I just want to see these three safeties. You'd argue the whole safety room, honestly, but these three safeties and what it means in Jesse Minter's defense. Now that the roles are defined and these guys have all been in here for at least a year, Molden, who I wasn't 100% sure if he was going to play, but he's listed full now, so he should be good to go. So what does that look like? Derwin didn't even play week 4 last season, but at that point he was still, kind of playing free safety, so not quite being that slot option for them. Now he is, or at least I assume he's going to be that. We're about to find out. So what does that full complement, what does that trio look like? Because that is an expensive room. Those three safeties are really expensive when all combined together. No one's got Kyle Hamilton money, but Derwin James is probably going to get Kyle Hamilton money in a little bit. So what does that look like as if Derwin's in the slot? Okay, what are the other two guys doing? How do they make things difficult? I think we're all excited about Derwin. We're all excited about Elijah Molden, I think, although, of course, we hope he returns to form after his injury. To me, I really am curious and I'm excited to see Alohi Gilman, because I just think he has more there than a lot of fans like to give him credit for. And I think sometimes we forget what great stuff he can do, and being like the only good thing in that Staley defense that year. And had some great moments. Last time we saw him, he had some great moments in the Houston game, but he's always just kind of like this, Alohi Gilman fucking sucks. Like, get somebody else. I just have a feeling, especially in what's now essentially a contract year, he's gonna show out a little bit more than I think people are expecting.
Yeah, I've never really understood the Alohi hate. Like, people talk about him like he's, one of the worst players out there, and was like this first round pick that's super disappointing. He was a 6th round pick the Chargers drafted to play special teams, and he's turned into a very quality starting safety. I think the way that this Chargers coaching staff is building his defense, with Derwin James essentially being your starting nickel corner, is going to create some real opportunities for Alohi and for Elijah Molden to play, really high end football in this game and this season. And unfortunately, we just didn't get to really see them stay healthy last season. Durbin obviously stayed pretty healthy, and hopefully that continues. But this safety trio, it's to me, it's easily the best safety room in the league. Like, if you're counting Derwin as a true safety, with Elijah, the way that he played last year, where he was a top 5 safety on PFF all season long, despite never having played the position before and playing in a defense he had never played before. I think there's another gear that he can get to. So I'm anxious to see what that looks like. I know there's a bit of uncertainty at corner, but with the way that they're going to play, there's really not going to be a ton of stress on those corners, because the safeties can cover so much ground from a schematic standpoint, from a game plan standpoint, obviously from a speed standpoint. And I just think that this trio is in for a really, really special season.
Yeah. And the only real big play the Chargers let up against the Chiefs was that touchdown to, I believe, Worthy in that first game, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Derwin was Derwin was not on the field. I think Minter just wants to make sure that doesn't happen again this game.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Before we continue, our audio audience is going to take a quick break. And then we're going to speed things up a bit here because we're 45 minutes in. But we appreciate you guys for sticking with us. So audio audience, take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. All right, Tyler. You put Chris Jones on the screen. I wonder what's keeping you up about this matchup.
Yes, our fans, surprisingly, you'd be surprised to hear that I'm going to talk about the interior offensive line and how they fare against Chris Jones. There is no real better answer, in my opinion. There are answers I could give for sure, but it's potential and likely Hall of Fame interior defensive lineman versus bad Chargers interior offensive line, which I know does include Mekhi Becton, but that's one out of the 3. And I have a feeling that Chris Jones is going to find the other two of those three.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what's keeping me up, because it's been keeping us up and nervous for a year, all off season. You could argue 2 off seasons. Almost my entire Chargers fandom, I've been thinking about the interior offensive line. So yeah, heading into this game, it's an easy answer, but the Chargers didn't do a whole lot to improve it. So it is still my answer. Chris Jones versus the 3 guys in the interior. And honestly, the edge rushers, like not the edge rushers, Trey Pipkins as well. He will, I'm sure, face Chris Jones too.
Yeah, we've seen Chris Jones in the past where he'll bounce around left tackle, right tackle, guard, center. He's kind of a wing it player. Like you'll see them come out and he'll just be kind of like standing up and he'll kind of pick and choose his spots here and there. Again, that's what has made Mike Dana such a valuable player for them, is that the two of them can just kind of move around and figure out where they want to attack. I don't expect Chris Jones to go up against Joe Alt all that much. Given the way that the Super Bowl went, I'm not sure he's going to go up against Mekhi Becton all that much. Granted, you had obviously Lane Johnson next to Mekhi during that Super Bowl. So we'll see, man. I think Chris Jones is going to do a lot of bouncing around, figure out where he can pick his spots here and there. But yeah, like it's even as an extension for him, the Chiefs were very deliberate in getting a specific type of player to go next to him, where I don't love these players, but like Jerry Tillery and Omar Norman Lott, like they complement his pass rush, skill set more than the previous players did. So I think we'll see Chris Jones move around a lot, and I think he is going to have a splash play of sorts in this game that could potentially swing the game towards the Chiefs. Obviously I hope not, but he's just such a great player. He's probably like the 3rd or 4th best defensive player in the league. And unfortunately for us, doesn't seem like he's slowing down.
Nope, unfortunately. So who's keeping you up at night?
Yeah, I think Chris Jones is obviously the one. It's the easiest choice here.
Yeah.
But I think I'm more so curious about it versus like keeping me up at night. But like the Chiefs have had a lot of positive, vibes around their vertical attack coming back. With obviously Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, who I can't believe is like playing a super key role for them. And obviously Hollywood Brown has had his moments in his career where he can get vertical. So the Chiefs have been kind of dink and dunk, as we mentioned, for the last 2 years. And they appear to be, hell-bent on pushing the ball deep down the field. Maybe part of that is their confidence in Josh Simmons, and maybe they think Kingsley Suamataia is a lot better than he is. I don't really know. We'll see. But their main 3 receivers until Rashee Rice comes back are all vertical guys. And, we haven't really seen the Chiefs offense be that way in a long time, really pretty much ever since they traded Tyreek Hill. Xavier Worthy has such a tendency to create these massive, momentum swinging plays because he's a 4.22 speed kind of guy. And so for the Chargers, who they want to keep everything in front of them, they want to limit the explosive plays. If they struggle to keep the receivers in front of them, it could be a bit of a longer night for the Chargers defense than we saw last year, where they were able to keep a lid on everything. So it's an important game point. I don't know really how much I trust those guys to, execute that kind of vision, just not a group of 3 players that are like super reliable. But all 3 have the potential to, break a game open. And I'm curious to see what this actually looks like, because the Chiefs beat reporters cannot stop talking about the deep ball coming back for Patrick Mahomes in 2025. And if this is the game that starts that, it could be a longer night for the Chargers defense than we think.
Yeah, that would not be great. The Chargers, I guess, I'll kind of like just piggyback off that a little bit. We don't officially know how this DB room is going to do, or the corners, I should say, are going to do this year. They really held it together last year. And some moments were good, some moments not so good. Some moments just didn't have the talent, or Fulton was coming back from injury. So like I feel good about Tarheeb still, but like we're not 100% sure. It's not like he was the starting outside corner from the jump last year. And Dante Jackson, who the reports are very strong about him too, but like neither of these guys are those sort of speedsters. They don't necessarily have to be, and the safeties are going to help them quite a bit. And I'm hoping the pass rush, of course, helps them too. But we don't officially know what these guys are going to be. And it is a very, very long season ahead of them with who they're going to be facing. This isn't even like a great receiving room, but like you said, they have a certain talent that they can express, that Mahomes can definitely express. And if Simmons is letting them do that where they weren't able to do that before, that's a different piece of their game that they're going to attempt that they clearly were not going for last year. Yes, Worthy had the big touchdown, but like as LDE Bruin said, they were dink and dunk. His ADOT was like the lowest in the league or pretty close to it. If that's completely different this year, that's a whole different script you can throw at the Chargers this year that was not there last year.
Yeah, I agree there. So people in the chat talking about Trent McDuffie, who is a great player by all accounts. The reporting there is that McDuffie is going to be an outside corner for them this year because they do not trust their outside cornerback depth, whereas they feel like they have some better options in the slot. That's definitely an area where I would look to kind of test that with Ladd McConkey. So from an individual matchup standpoint, as somebody who watches the film, I would love to see Ladd versus Trent McDuffie all game long. I think we see McDuffie play a little bit more on the outside, and last season he almost like shadowed Quentin Johnston, which was not pretty. But Quentin is improving, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Trent McDuffie's a good answer here. I just don't know really how much he'll impact this game with him playing on the outside, and the Chargers are going to do so much feeding towards Ladd and Keenan and Conklin in the slot.
Yeah, right. I mean, Jacob says here, like, if Ladd's going to, and Keenan Allen, they're going to crush it in the slot. I just don't see that being their plan for this game. They're like,
yeah,
okay,
it wouldn't make sense. But last year they had McDuffie on Quentin. Like, I mean, nobody knew what Ladd was at that point.
Yeah, and then we never got tweaked. We never got the second round either. So I don't officially know how they would have done that in that game. With Ladd not playing. Although QJ had a nice second game against the Chiefs. So who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not keeping me up at night, but he can very much so wipe out Quentin Johnston. Hey, man, if you want to wipe out Quentin Johnston for this game, by all means.
Yeah, go do that, man. Please stay away from Ladd and Keenan Allen.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Oh, man.
All right. X factors for this one. Tyler Conklin is on the screen. He is my choice. I think he is sneakily the most like undercovered addition the Chargers had. Like there was obviously a ton of buzz on Najee and Mekhi for like different reasons, like they were not practicing, but they were like the splashy additions that the Chargers went after on offense. There were the rookies who were making big plays. Tyler Conklin quietly had a really, really solid training camp by all accounts. Obviously, I was not there. And in this matchup in particular, where you ideally are trying to, get ahead of the sticks a little bit, look for a security blanket, not put yourself in negative situations as much as you can. I think Tyler Conklin is the guy who could have a big game. And obviously, Will Dissly was kind of their screen guy last year. But that was one of Conklin's best attributes from when I watched on tape. His ability to create yards after catch is really, really underrated. The Chargers last year really struggled in the red zone. I think Conklin could be a really, really great solution there with the ability that he has to create contested catch situations. There were multiple seasons on his record where he did not have a single drop. I think this has a chance to be a really big game for him just because the Chiefs have so much uncertainty with the spine of their defense. We mentioned Justin Reed earlier. He was kind of their tight end stopper previously. He's not on this team anymore. He's in New Orleans. Trent McDuffie is playing outside, not on the slot. So this to me could set up for a pretty big Tyler Conklin performance. And maybe, that performance is like a 5 receptions, 60 yards and a touchdown. And I think that would be a huge way for him to start with this regime going forward.
Yeah, not going to be 1,000-yard player for this team, although I wouldn't have guessed Dissly was a 500-yard player for this team. But as you said, they just such an undercovered, underreported player. I mean, even in free agency, even the contract he got, it was like this guy puts up 400, 500, 600 yards with not much help around him at quarterback for sure. And he's just like, no one was giving him a big contract. He's not the big name guy. He's not getting the big offers. And he just goes with the Chargers on this deal. And I'm sure he's going to have another 400, 500, 600 yards for the Chargers because he always does. No matter what, he's always been a consistent guy. Yes, there are a lot of different targets to feed, but it's just such an obvious, clear improvement from last year. Is it getting Colston Loveland in the first round? It's not, but it is still a significant jump. Like, of the differences between player they had versus player they got, I think like Conklin's one of the biggest jumps that they've made, and they did it at such a low cost. He's going to be their Poona Ford 2.0, I think, this year on the offensive side. It just strikes me as a player. He's going to be very important for them. The red zone stuff, like it's going to be nice. I genuinely do not remember the last time Herbert threw a touchdown to a tight end in the red zone. And I'm trying to think of when that is. And I don't remember
he
when
had that
is.
awesome seam ball to Disley against the Bengals, but I don't know if that was technically the red zone or if that was like a 35.
I think it was a little further out. Yeah. Somebody in the chat, let me know. Like, when was the last tight end reception for a touchdown?
Had to be Parham then.
I mean, did Disley catch one?
No, because Disley only had 2 touchdowns, so they were both like relatively longer passes last year.
I mean, the fact that I can't pull that right now, granted, I'm tired, but
Gerald Everett.
I mean, that's crazy that's how far back we have to go. Like, it's going to be so strange to see a tight end catch a touchdown. Not that it'll happen tomorrow. It'd be awesome if it did, but it'll be nice to see involvement in the red zone by a tight end, a sure-handed one at that. So yeah, X factor here. I think just a sneaky good player for them that no one's really talking about.
So he had 2 touchdowns last year. Will Disley, I mean, I think one of them may have been in the red zone. I don't know. We'll see. There was another point that I was going to make here. Somebody was asking about Will Disley versus Tyler Conklin, how that's going to work out. I think Will Disley is still going to have an impact on the season. But in training camp, when they would go into 11 personnel, Tyler Conklin was the tight end of choice. And I think he's going to be heavily involved. Like, when they signed Hayden Hurst and Will Disley together in practices, Hayden Hurst was like very clearly their top pass catching option. And then he got hurt in week 4 or 5. And so it just kind of became Disley's show. And then for whatever reason, they didn't want to play Stone Smart at all. So it was Will Disley's show. So Will Disley will have an impact. He'll probably get, 200, 250 yards receiving, bunch of screens, stuff like that. But I think Conklin is going to be a big player for them this year.
Yeah, definitely. And if he does, please bring him back. Just keep that continuity for Herbert.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, who is your X factor here?
Speaking of bringing him back, the ultimate X factor, I think, is I have no idea what this is going to be, and that is Keenan Allen returning to the Chargers. It could be a variety of things. It could be an absolute dumpster fire DJ Chark 2024 kind of season. It could be, he contributes 200-300 yards, key third downs, good locker room guy, great. It could be 600 yards. It could be 800 yards. Could even maybe flirt to close to 1,000. I doubt it, but it is Keenan Allen, so, and I love him. My jersey's behind me, so of course I root for him harder than most. But like, what is his role? How much is he playing in the slot? How much is he on the field with Ladd McConkey?
Yeah.
Are you playing him outside very much? I don't know. Like, the reason we kind of moved on from him this year, despite loving him, I mean, last year, of course, but like this year as a free agent option, was like, they have Ladd McConkey as the slot. Got to go get that X player. They got the X player. They drafted X players. There was no intention of this really. And then Mike Williams retires. This, and that. Not Keenan Allen's here. So what the heck is his role? He looks great in camp. It's like, warms my heart, but it's almost shockingly a surprise, like how good he looks in camp. He's like, oh yeah, he's back. Okay, he's scoring on everybody. It's like, oh, interesting. So like, what does this look like? I'm genuinely curious what the heck Keenan Allen is for this team. If it's third down, if it's fourth and gotta have it, if it's in the end zone, all that sort of stuff. 1,750 yards. I'm thinking like 600 or 700 yards. You guys sick? Are you sick of that yet, Steven, by the way?
6, 7. Am I sick of what? 6, 7? Yeah. It's so stupid. I'm like, what does this even mean? Anyways. The Keenan situation, like I have no idea. Like I don't understand. Like I don't have enough information for the vision, right? And like his role on third downs, I think is very, very comfortable. Him and Ladd on third downs, that's going to be very difficult for teams to match up with. I think that's like the main reason you bring Keenan in. So the way that Greg Roman is going to handle Keenan, like everybody else on the offense, I'm like, okay, I see where Greg Roman is going with this. With Keenan and like playing the most of his snaps in training camp as a Z receiver is so interesting to me because Keenan hasn't played that role in like 7 years. So, it's just gonna be really interesting. Keenan's obviously not the fastest guy, but he can definitely win and create separation. I know what the contested catch situations are going to be like. So I think he's going to have a good season. I just don't know what it's going to look like. I assume it's going to be a lot of like in breaking routes, a lot of daggers, a lot of slants, things like that. But with how much this passing offense in other iterations of it has gone through a lab type receiver, a tight end like Tyler Conklin, I just don't know where that leaves Keenan and where that leaves the other players. So I think Keenan's going to have a good season. I just don't know how good. Like I think I would say the floor is probably like a 500-yard season, 5 touchdowns, but could it be more? Yeah, absolutely. If he stays healthy and they figure things out quickly, it could definitely be a big time season. In this game in particular, where if you put Trent McDuffie on Quentin Johnston, then that's going to create a lot of opportunities for Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey in other places.
Yeah, and we won't determine everything off of one game, of course, but I see posts where it's like this guy's gonna have 800 yards, this guy's gonna have 1,000 yards, and you do the math, and it's like, okay, Herbert's throwing for 92,000 yards this season. That's crazy, and they're rushing for 22,000 yards. That's awesome. What is the pecking order? I don't know. Like, there's a world where Herbert could target Keenan Allen more than Ladd McConkey. I don't think that will happen. But there's potentially
that would be shocking to me.
That would be shocking. But in some games, I don't know, man. Especially
in some games, sure. In some games, sure. If
Ladd McConkey is the focus of and he should be. Yeah. It's like, I'm gonna go to my old friend here and take a few more. Sure. I don't know. I don't know. That's why he's the X factor. I genuinely have no idea what's gonna happen.
Yeah, in an individual game where, theoretically, Trent McDuffie is going to play on the outside, but if he's shadowing Ladd McConkey, I would still trust Ladd McConkey to win that matchup. Like, I think he's that good of a player. But I would not blame Herbert for going, I'm just going to go to Keenan in this game instead. Or these other teams who have great slot players. I think that's fair. But I think Ladd's going to go for like 1,500 yards this year. I think he's going to have a huge, huge season.
Yeah, I hope so, dude. I hope so.
All right, let's get to our game picks here. Do you want me to start or do you want to start?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a coward.
Heading into the season when the schedule came out, I picked the Chargers to split against the Chiefs. And obviously the vibes have not been great with Rashawn Slater going out and doubling that or coupling that, I should say, with like Mekhi being out and Najee being out. Well, those guys are back. This is the healthiest the Chargers have been, even with Rashawn Slater being out. This is the healthiest the Chargers have been against the Chiefs in quite a long time. And with Rashee Rice, Jalen Royals being out, I think I'm going to stick with my original preseason pick and go with the Chargers to win this game. I think anybody who thinks this is more than a 4-point victory is absolutely crazy. These games are always close. Like in the last 10 matchups, the average margin of victory, unfortunately by the Chiefs, is like 3.5 points. They're always close. So I'm going to go relatively low scoring here. I'm going to say 23-20 Chargers win. I think the offense does just enough with Omari and Hampton in particular playing like a huge game to win this game by 3, start the season off on a strong note. If this game were in Arrowhead, I would probably pick a loss, but neutral site, I think that matters. So I'm going Chargers win, a close game, starting the season strong, and I can't wait to see it, man. I think this is going to be an awesome game.
I agree with you, and I'm very close. I would thought 22-20. Like you said, it cannot be a blowout by either team. It's impossible. That's just not happening.
These two defensive coaches are too good to let this be a high-scoring game.
Right. Greg Roman's not suddenly dropping 40 on Spags, and no one's dropping 40 on Minter. Like, I just don't see that happening. There's a world where a special teams touchdown jumps in here.
Sure.
or which is very possible with these Chargers. But yeah, I will not pick the Chargers to win the division because the season long grind is different. The Chiefs are just kind of bulletproof when it comes to that, and they always have been for a while now. But in this particular game, with a lot of uncertainty on their own end, with some players missing, when we did the offseason or the offense review and like resetting expectations, as I was putting every new name that was on that list and just now having the context of what they look like in Chargers uniforms in the preseason, at camp, etc., knowing what Trey Harris can do, Keandre Lambert-Smith can do, Conklin, Gadsden, etc. Obviously, Hampton does look great. Listing all of those players and just thinking, okay, logically, every player, not every player, but these players should help the team. They should be a better offense. Even if half of them don't hit and they aren't amazing, the other 5 hitting makes this offense way better than last year, I would think. Or it should be better than last year. The loss of Slater then changes things. But when I was doing that prep for that show, that's when my pick flipped. I would have honestly picked them to lose 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when we had Trey Harris holding out, and I don't know when the order was. Mike Williams retires, Najee Harris fireworks injury, Rashawn Slater blows out his leg. It's like, okay.
The vibes were bad. The
vibes were terrible. You asked me a month ago when all that was within like a week of each other. Forget it. But things are just kind of trending the right way in a way that just as a Chargers fan feels kind of relaxing. I'm not very keyed up for this game. I will be tomorrow. Don't even talk to me. But right now, I'm not very keyed up for this game. I just kind of think the Chargers are in a groove to handle the business tomorrow. Whole season, I think the Chiefs still take that division. One game with a lot to both teams have a lot to get off their chest after the last games they played. But I just think the Chargers got it on this one. And I said that the last 10 times. So take it with a grain of salt. But I think they got this one.
Yeah. I think I just have a lot more confidence with how this regime can handle the Chiefs, where you're missing so many key pieces in week 4 last year, and they still almost won. And like, I was at that game. The Chargers offense could barely move the football, and they almost won that game. And then at Arrowhead, you obviously, the Chiefs win on the doink at the end, and there was, just unfortunate. But I think this regime is just in, I don't think they're ever going to like sweep Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but I feel like eventually they're going to start splitting, and I think that starts tomorrow. I know that some Chiefs fans will probably find this and clip it out or whatever. But hey, man, like, I think eventually things have to start, getting back to the mean here. And I think the Chargers are well equipped to do that this year.
Yeah, clip it out. Your state sucks. Your team's great.
Your team's great. Your barbecue's good.
Your barbecue's sick. Yeah. I'll respond to your comments from the beach. Thank you.
Yeah, right. All right. Let's get to some super chats to close us out here. A few from Mr. Dark Chow Chow. Appreciate him for jumping in here. He says Mahomes' play declined over the last few years' stats. I think that's fair. Some of these preseason polls that have come out have him as like the second best quarterback in the league. Until I see him not in the AFC Championship every year, I think you kind of just have to give him his flowers a little bit. He's very clearly like Tim Duncan-esh, from the Spurs days, where he just doesn't care about statistics and he just wants to win. So
yeah,
unfortunate for us.
Yep.
Back with another one. He says Karlaftis is Pipkins' easiest assignment this year. It only gets tougher for Pipkins from there. Also, Kelsey is 35, won't be a factor in the game.
Listen, man, that guy paid for an expensive ring. He's gonna have to, get that game. I'm just kidding. They'll be fine financially. Probably just off of
one of the richest women on the planet.
But it's a masculine thing. You got to be able to do it yourself. I don't know about the Commanders and their matchup for Trey Pipkins, but yes, Nick Bonito, Max Crosby, Abdul Carter. I mean, it's not going to be very fun. So until the Commanders, I think it's going to be hell.
Yeah, that's the NFL though. Like every team has 2 or 3 great edge rushers these days, unfortunately.
Every team, because I'm looking for like 2 on this one.
He says make Chris Jones play run defense. He struggles.
Yeah, just like Micah Parsons sucks is defending the run too. Chris Jones is probably not a better run defender than pass rusher. He's a very, very good run defender.
Oh yeah. They sub him out on first downs a lot to keep him fresh. Like that's really what it's sad. B came in and said, "Yeah, fuck Missouri."
Fuck Missouri. That's right. If we win, do we get to clip that one out?
Yeah, dude. Why not?
I'm sorry, Missouri. Robert lives there, I believe. I am so sorry. The area you live is my favorite part of Missouri. That is my favorite place to visit. It's wonderful. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, yeah, who cares about Missouri?
Yeah.
Your name is Misery. You know, like what kind of state is that?
Yeah. Part of St. Louis is cool, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
I couldn't tell you a lot about the state of Missouri, to be completely honest. I couldn't tell you much about it.
Yeah, me neither.
I got nothing.
I do want to go to a game in Kansas City at some point in my life, but
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be fun.
Daddy Don't Pull Out says if the Chargers win, is beer the new Taylor Swift? Nobody will top the Taylor Swift hype. Like it's everybody knows who Taylor Swift was. I did not know who Madison Beer was 2 weeks ago, and I'm 31. Like if you think like Jim Nance like knows who Madison Beer is, like I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think I don't even know if Madison Beer would attend a game, but no, not quite.
Yeah. Fun stuff. I don't think she'll be mentioned. Like they're not officially dating. Like, you know, they're, as far as we know, they've gone out together. But
yeah,
I said this a couple of weeks ago. Like Josh Allen and Haley Steinfeld started dating like 2 years ago, and people only ever started talking about after they got engaged. So
yeah, and she's a much bigger star, I think.
Yeah,
movie space. Yes, I guess I don't know about
Robert. Calm down. Oh man, I just can't wait for this game. We're a few minutes away from Thursday Night Football kicking off here. I'm just so glad that the NFL is back. I obviously love my alma mater, watching Utah football, but the NFL is where I like truly grew to love the sport of football, and I can't wait. I love that the NFL is back. This weekend's games are crazy. Like you have tonight, you obviously have the Chargers game tomorrow. You have Lions and Packers on Sunday. Like it's crazy. There's a lot of great games this weekend. I'm super excited. I can't wait for all of this to get started in a few minutes here. Tyler, any final thoughts before we head out?
We will see you tomorrow night. Clip out whatever you want. We'll be there.
Yes, we will be there every day, as Jim Harbaugh says, kind of, but should be a lot of fun. All right, so like Tyler mentioned, we'll be live shortly after the Chargers game goes final tomorrow night. Should be, again, a ton of fun to see how this game unfolds. So we will be back tomorrow night, about 10 minutes after the game goes final. So yeah, we will be here. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for us. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.